We are here, and it is right now. It is the UFC 317 Fight IQ podcast preview show where we break down each fight on the card, including the two title fights that sit atop this now 11 fight slate with one fight late cancellation. We'll get into all that. But first, let me introduce my partners in crime here. It is first, of course, Joe Sun Tzu with us to break down every fight on the card. And, of course, Drake, never a burden to us. They're all gracing us with their presence here. Again, we're breaking down every fight on the card. And, boys, as I said, a late cancellation of a fight that was basically a regional fight anyway. But that being excluded, what do we think about this card? What do we think about the title fights on the card and just the card as a whole for DFS and betting purposes?
So I'll start, I guess. I mean, last week was such a dumpster fire for me that I am actually looking at this card as a redemption arc. I need to, and I'm honestly, I'm happy either winning or losing. I'm happy to have a week off. Next week, 4th of July. So I actually like this card. I think there are betting cards. We were talking about this offline. There are betting cards and there are DFS cards. I think this is a really good card for DFS. I mean, there are a lot of live underdogs. With one or two notable exceptions, the lines are really tight, which is good, which makes for interesting fights, which makes for great variance in DFS. So I really do like this card a lot. I mean, obviously it's International Fight Week out in Vegas. They want to try to have a strong card. Just a quick announcement. They did bump the start time from 6:30 to 7 because we did lose a fight. I think both fighters weighed in heavy. I don't know. I think one, maybe both weighed in heavy. So they actually canceled the fight. And I think they actually even cut one of the guys as a result of how much he missed weight. But anyway, I do like this card a lot, and I will turn it over to Drake.
Yeah, Drake, go ahead.
Okay. You look like you're about to say something. I mean, as far as, these, pay-per-view cards go, it's not a terrible one. It's not the best. It's not the worst. For me, it's kind of right in the middle. I am really looking forward to the main card. It's actually probably all 5 fights that I'm really excited for. Particularly the main event and then my boy Joshua Van. I love watching him fight. But yeah, this card, I mean, it should be a good one. It sucks that we're once again getting just an 11 fight card, assuming nothing else cancels. We've seen all sorts of dumpster fires lately, but yeah, looking forward to it and looking forward to this breakdown that we're about to do. Before we start,
I've got a question for you guys.
Sure.
So would you rather have less events? Because right now, UFC does 40 or so plus events. And some of these cards really get watered down, in my opinion. Would you rather have, say, 30 events where we know we're going to get a minimum of 14 fights per card and there's going to be less dilution in the talent pool, or just keep it at like 40 plus and have like one hiatus in November and then occasionally have a week off? What would you guys rather have?
I'd rather have the 30.
Yeah. So the cancellation of this fight prompted this kind of discussion in the private chat there. I am, of course, for less cards, the dilution of the talent pool, of course, the fighter mill that the Contender Series has become, where it's basically just getting guys on for that specific purpose of if a guy falls out, just getting warm bodies on the roster. Really is a shame, I think, what's happened to the UFC as of late. I mean, we do get content, we do get DFS, we do get betting opportunities. So if that's all we want, I mean, it's there if you want it. But me personally, I would rather higher quality opportunities and also higher quality cards. But, mileage may vary, and we're here from you. We're here for you, rather, no matter what. So on that note, we are actually going to get started. Enough of my soapboxing grandstanding. But before we do, I just want to say that if you do want to check out RotoWire content now, of course, football season is about to gear up. Baseball season in full swing. All that good stuff. We have optimizers for everything. The MMA optimizer, of course, I do the projections for. So if you win a lot of money on that, please come in and let me know. I only require a small tithe if you do win. So definitely let me know about that. But if you are interested in all of that, RWCS15 is your code at checkout. Again, RWCS15 for 15% off any subscription. Again, all of our content, you check it out, 15% off your first subscription, RWCS15 at checkout. And but now we are actually going to move right to the card, and it is the first fight on the slate, which is now let me see what is okay. It's Jonathan Diniz at 9,100 taking on Alvin Hines at 7,100. Line on this fight, it is minus 450 at Jonathan Diniz. Alvin Hines coming back at plus 350. And Joe actually had mentioned that this line kind of blew up in favor of Diniz. He was already the favorite. It turned out that Diniz wasn't looking so great on the scale, I guess, so he became even a bigger favorite. I'm sorry, Hines wasn't looking too good on the scale, so Diniz became even a bigger favorite. And as I said, I don't think that would matter to me. I don't think Alvin Hines looks like a particularly good heavyweight. He's very slow. He likes to strike. I guess he's a grappler by trade. You wouldn't really know it if you watch his fights. He does have like a single leg that he likes, but it's very slow and it's very mechanical, and I just don't like much about his game. He likes head and arm chokes if he can get there. Diniz has actually been a decent takedown defender. When he gets on the ground, he's kind of in trouble, but he's defended takedowns in most of his fights. It's just that the more persistent takedown artists tend to get him. I don't think that Hines is going to be that guy again, just because he's very slow. And I just don't like his game. I think it takes a long time to develop. And I do think he likes to strike too much. And Diniz has hurt everyone he's faced in the octagon. Hasn't put them all away, but has hurt everybody. So I just don't like Alvin Hines at all. I think Diniz is headed for a pretty quick knockout here. So that's going to be my pick. It's Diniz all day. I like him at 91, even though there's not going to be much grappling on that side, just because I do think he gets the quick finish. So it's Diniz for me all day, but we will open it up now, and we will start with Joe Sun Tzu. Joe, how do you see this fight?
Okay, so as you made reference, there was a major line blow up here. But what's really interesting is that I know people that actually got money down on Diniz at minus 200, which, yeah, I wish I could say I was one of them. I placed some parlays with Diniz at minus 360 and minus 395. Now, I will say the one line that at least hasn't moved as of yet is Diniz inside the distance. So I made a very large wager on Diniz inside the distance, minus 160. I do think he's going to finish him. Hines is a weekend fighter. Like Hines essentially, round one KO. I don't hate that. Hines, I believe, is in some kind of like trade union where he like clocks pretty major ducats. And, you know, he just kind of like fights on weekends. This is really a testament to the dilution of the pool, especially in heavyweights, right? Like this guy, come on. I mean, I don't know if he would like fight in LFA. Like, I'm not really sure how they found him or what happened here, but like, yeah, I like Diniz. Look, Diniz isn't great either. I mean, you know, he's a low to middling level heavyweight in his own right, but he's so much better than Hines. And I think you got to be playing him. If you're going to play him, you're going to play him to win inside the distance. I think that's the best way to play him. And I do like him on DK. I'm going to play him a lot in DK. I'm going to be very minimal to Hines. Look, he is a heavyweight, and heavyweights have puncher's chances. So, okay, fine. I'll have a couple percentage of him. But I did say this is a good DFS card. So I'm going to be playing a fair amount of Diniz, and kind of that's it. End it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think we're not going to get too much of a debate, but we will see. Drake, how do you see the first fight here?
No, Hines is going to – no, I'm just kidding. You guys went way too long for this fight. Way too long.
Hey, the people expect analysis, man.
Hines is Hines has what, 4 or 5 fights in the LFA, and then he was, hoping for an eventual title shot in the LFA, and then He was also hoping for a fight in the Contender Series. He skipped both of those. He got a call for the UFC. And like Joe said, it just shows you how diluted and watered down specifically the heavyweight division is, that we're bringing in a guy that's fought nothing but trash cans. So Diniz, he should have no problem with this fight. It should be literally KO or Diniz has messed up. So I'm all over Diniz.
Yeah, Diniz is the play for sure. I'm getting admonished in the chat by our friend DC, I guess we'll say, for not acknowledging the chat. But of course, we love all our chatters. Had a couple things to take care of when we opened up, so apologies for that. But if you do get your chats in there, your comments, your suggestions, your predictions, I will, of course, put them up. And that is something that we save for later in the show as well with our hot takes. But for now, we will move on to the next fight. And it is Jacoby Smith at 9,900 on DraftKings, taking on Nico Price at 6,300. The line on this fight, hold on to your hats for this one. It is minus 2,500 for Jacoby Smith, plus 1,200 coming back on Nico Price. And, Jacoby Smith looked good in the snapshots that we've seen him. He's quick. He's powerful. He's got a good boxing game. He's got a good wrestling game. But why is the line this big? It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever, especially a guy like Nico Price who's gonna throw himself into the fire. I mean, you would think even a puncher's chance is worth more than plus 1,200, and we know that Nico Price has one. I mean, I like Jacoby Smith. I like everything we've seen from him so far, but we haven't seen enough. We know that Nico Price is a dog. We know that he's tough. We know he can take damage, and if he's still there after a couple of shots, then what happens to Jacoby Smith? We don't know that yet. So, 9,900. I almost play none of it. Just because there's way more guys to pick that can put big scores up, and Jacoby Smith is gonna need a really big score to pay off that salary. Like, you're almost looking for the 60-second bonus here. And I just don't know that it happens. It could, again, because Nico Price is that kind of fighter who's going to throw himself in. But I just like everything else down the card way more in price. And the pick has to be Jacoby Smith just for the attributes I talked about. But Nico Price is no joke. He never has been. So the pick is Smith, but this one, I don't want to say dog or pass completely because he's 6,300, but it's really hard to justify Jacoby Smith with everything else going on in this card. I will say that. But we'll bring it to the fellas now and see what's going on. Drake, how do you see this massive line, and how are you going to play it?
I'm actually just going to read straight off my article for this one.
Go ahead.
I said, while I do think Smith should win, I also think he's being priced a little too wide here. Price is the veteran with way more experience and can make things ugly if he's firing on all cylinders. That said, Smith's pressure and wrestling edge are going to be hard to deny if he sticks to the game plan. I'm not writing Price off completely, but Smith is a big favorite for a reason. In my opinion, he's just way too big of a favorite. I don't know why he's priced so high. I don't know where that came from. It's not like Price is some bum off the street. But this is a fight that Smith should win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think it does have to just sort of be that to the point where it's okay. It's this guy, but it's the price consideration. But we'll see if Joe has anything else to say on the matter. Joe, how do you see this fight?
Yeah. So the one interesting piece of narrative here is that I heard that Nico Price is actually has got permission from the UFC to change his nickname. As he comes out, he is changing his name to Nico Broken Condom Price. And for those of you who don't know, he's got 7 kids, Nico Price. So I don't know, maybe fighting is recreational for him now. And, because he's been in the UFC for so long, I mean, his show money is going to be more than Smith's winning show money combined. So he's going to get a decent paycheck here. I have a feeling this might be his last fight. He might actually go into retirement after this fight, but damn, dude, practice the rhythm method, whatever. So yeah, look, he's got a puncher's chance. I'll never forget the the knockout of Randy Brown from his back, which is like one of the greatest MMA fights. Like he's literally on his back punching up and knocks out Randy Brown. Like that was just an ultimately cool fight to watch. I don't know if you'll ever see that again. But yeah, I mean, look, the only reason why you can play Smith here is because there are underdogs that we all feel are live in the 7K range. And we're almost looking at Smith as like a quasi contrarian play because he's probably going to be so low owned because he's at 9.9K. And to Chris's point, if he doesn't get that 60-second bonus, he's going to need like a lot of takedowns. He's going to need a lot of control time, maybe a knockdown or two. Like, look, it's not impossible. I mean, he's like, what, a D1 wrestler, right? He could get a lot of takedowns if price gets back up again. He could get a knockdown or two, but like, you're really going to need, a 120, 125 score in order to make him worthwhile, on a card that I think is going to have some pretty high scores. So yeah, play price, but play him more as a contrarian play and play him in lineups where, you throw in like maybe three in a studs and duds type lineup where you throw in three, 7K fighters. And you put Smith on top with maybe another 9K and then an 8K fighter, you might be able to build some lineups that way.
Yeah, but I think to your point, Joe, and we were talking about Price being a wrestler. We know how tricky Nico Price is on the ground. So Smith being a wrestler, that is, but we know how tricky Price is on the ground. So if that does go there, that can make it a little more interesting.
I just think it's an age thing. I think, Price has just gotten up there in age, and, look, Smith is the young gun. So no, look, I'm not going to say he doesn't have a chance. I would never say that, but I would be a little surprised if, look, if this was a women's MMA fight, I would be like, we've seen like really large favorites in women's MMA lose. And actually not too long ago, we saw another fighter on this card. It was a pretty sizable favorite. Peyton Talbot lose against Ronnie Barcelo. So look, he wasn't as big a favorite as Smith is, but like, it would be pretty surprising if Smith didn't get the win here.
Yeah, agreed. But is something to watch out for. And that is basically how we're going to play that. But we'll move on now to Terrence McKinney at 8,600. Taking on Slava Borche at 7,600. Line on this fight is Terrence McKinney 150, Slava Borche plus 130. And I was surprised at a couple things here. One, I was surprised that this wasn't closer to a pick'em. And two, I was surprised at how many people were confidently, picking Terrence McKinney. Terrence McKinney is now 12 fights into his UFC career and has never had an answer for what to do if his opponent survives for more than 3 minutes. He gets these quick knockouts, but if he can't get them, he either gets tired or kind of runs out of ideas, tries to go to his wrestling. We know that he can do that, but it's not something he wants to do. He'll tire himself out doing that. Against Damir Hadzovic, just threw a couple 1-2s, and his athleticism was enough to get the job done. Because it was Damir Hadzovic, who I literally didn't even know was still on the roster before that fight was made. Good for him to get a win here, but Slava is a very patient, methodical kickboxer. We've seen him take beatings and survive. He does get taken down a lot, but again, he survives. His get-up game is getting a lot better. I would say it's getting better every fight. Of course, he's got the alpha male guys in his corner, right? So at some point you would think that has to pay dividends. But Terrence McKinney's going to have the athleticism advantage, but I think Slava is just going to weather a little bit of a storm here and then start rolling downhill. I really actually like him in this spot. I'm surprised again that he's a decently sized underdog. He was actually a little bit wider to start the week, and it's closed a little bit. I think it has a little bit more to close. I really like Slava here. Again, I acknowledge the athleticism advantage, maybe a little bit of a power advantage as well, although I don't think that's too stark. But I just think Slava has the more important tools here. I think he's got the ability to ride out the storm. I think he's got the technical advantage. I like his body work, and I think he's gonna pull one out here. I think he wins by knockout, but we'll see what the boys think. And I believe we'll start with Joe this time. Joe, how you see it?
Yeah. So, what's really interesting here is, actually, as you stated, McKinney's won like 15 of his 16 fights in his entire career, all in the first round. There is a path to victory for him here, but he won't pursue it. Like, other than the quick knockout, there is a path for victory. I mean, Slava Claus can be taken down by a fart. I mean, like even at Alpha Male, where he's the striking coach and is a camp known for having good wrestlers, he really can't stop takedowns. And McKinney actually has a little bit of wrestling in his back pocket. He just won't use it. Like, he's going to go out there and bang. This could be a really interesting fight to bet live, especially if McKinney has a really good first round. And you're going to get really good plus money at the end of the first round due to how the algorithm, prices these fights live, to bet on Slava Claus, after round one. Actually, Chris, I've been hearing a lot of love for Slava Claus in this fight. Like, I think you called the line, right? We're down to plus 142 on Slava Claus, minus 170 on McKinney. The first three fights, oddly enough, all are over-unders 1.5. Now, obviously, the Diniz fight is 1.5, under 1.5, minus 110. Smith under 1.5, minus 270. This is under 1.5, minus 238, which is a pretty good number for the under. So, like, you're probably gonna see a finish here. Like, you maybe could get some equity on both sides if you do fight ends and finish, but it's going to be prohibitive. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Slava Claus here as well. This is one of my dogs that I like. I think there's a little bit of line value in DFS here. We might see this tighten up a bit. But, McKinney does have that first round win equity. And if he does win, he's going to win by knockout in the first round, which is going to score really well. So you do need to have shares of McKinney in DFS. You really do. Like, you need to figure out what the ownership's going to be, and you should be on or slightly higher ownership, because he could get that first round finish. It's going to be really difficult if this fight goes into round two, though. So, that's kind of the caveat. But I'm going to pick Slava Claus.
Just a note there, Joe. I believe it's T.Rex, WRECKS, but neither here nor there. I actually, Joe, I think he might use his wrestling here. I just don't think it is ultimately going to matter, because I think, look, McKinney's not a submission artist, and I think Slava is going to be able to ride that out, get back to his feet. T-Rex ultimately be tired and then gets knocked out. So even if he does use his wrestling, I'm not all that concerned about it, but we will see what Drake is concerning himself with. Drake, how do you see this fight?
Not a submission artist. He's got half of his wins by submission. What do you consider an artist then?
They're clubbing subs. He's not a jiu-jitsu fighter.
Subs a sub. He's got 8 knockouts. He's got 8. I'm gonna call it now. T-Rex by submission.
Oh yeah, okay. Go. I mean, you can go for it. A lot better submission artists haven't been able to do that. But
the problem that I have with Slava Claus is I just don't think that he's a good fighter. I think what he is good at is boxing, and that's it. I don't think there's anything else to his game. So if you're able to get around his boxing, you're going to win the fight.
Well, how much is there to McKinney's game?
He has everything. He's won by submission. He's won with takedowns, and he's won with knockouts. What do you want?
If you like McKinney by submission, you're getting plus 300. That's not bad.
That's pretty good. But you can't say he's got everything if he can't fight outside the first round, Drake. Come on.
Anybody can fight outside the first round. Don't mean you're going to win it.
Well, okay. I take the point, and look, I do think it's a bit of a technicality to say, look at all the submissions he has, but fair enough. He does have more ways to win. I will grant that, but I think really sort of a paper tiger fighter once you get past the first couple of minutes there. But we will see how it goes. And now I know I set myself up for eating a whole lot of crap if he loses in the DMs. But you know what? That's the risk we take for having strong takes. And
I picked them too, Chris. So
I know, but the back and forth wasn't as lively between you and Drake. So I feel like I'm going to get the brunt of it for you. I'll shield you, Joe, on this one. So,
by the way, Diniz just went from minus 455 to minus 470. So I'd like to think that that's us causing that line movement.
Yeah, exactly.
And
right.
Diniz to minus 470.
Yeah, the decision makers are watching. That's for sure. But for right now, we will go to one that's probably going to be have a little less lively discussion on it, but we'll see. It is Tracy Cortez at 8,900 taking on Vivian Araújo at 7,300. The line on this fight is Cortez minus 255, Araújo plus 215. I don't see why this one needs to be as wide either. Tracy Cortez is a good boxer, a good wrestler, but she will stand in the pocket if she can't get her wrestling going. She has no problem with that. Arujo has a pretty solid takedown defense. I believe it's 81% or so. She's also good footwork, good movement on her feet. But Tracy Cortez is a good boxer. And I expect this to be a pretty active fight in terms of striking, actually, because I don't think Cortez is going to get her wrestling going. I just sort of expect her to win like a pretty mundane striking decision, maybe with a few takedowns mixed in there. But not a real exciting fight for me. I don't think Cortez is really going to hit her value here. Matter of fact, she really doesn't hit her value anywhere, at least for this price. She hasn't, as I look here, just to make sure. Yeah, she has one fight over 87 points. She doesn't have any under 90 except over 90 rather, except for her UFC debut, and that was in 2019. So not really psyched for this fight at all. I guess I'll take Cortez, but Arujo is somebody you can look at if you're looking for dogs. I just don't expect this fight to score well in general. But we will see if the boys have a different take, and we'll start with Drake on this one. Drake, how do you see this fight?
This is more like a just fade fight for me.
Yeah.
I agree with everything you said. I don't see a finish, and I don't see enough groundwork or striking to come into play for DFS. Arujo is probably the better play in terms of DFS, just because this is going to go 15 minutes. So, I mean, but there's so many dogs on this card that it shouldn't really even matter. I chalk this up as both of them have a very similar skill set, and Cortez is just a little better.
Yeah, no, that's a decent shout. Like I said, the movement of Arujo does kind of intrigue me a little bit, but again, she doesn't really put up enough either to, and she's going to be on the back foot most of the time, which is going to stifle a lot of her point scoring ability. But we'll see what Joe thinks. Joe, how you see this fight?
Tracy Cortez, one of the better asses in MMA. I'll give her that. Unfortunately, she doesn't fight. I mean, she fought once in 2024 and once in 2023. Vivian Arujo, who's 7 years older, has been far more active than Cortez. And so, honestly, the last time Cortez actually hasn't had a win since 2023, because her one fight in 2024, she lost pretty decisively to Rose Namajunas. And in 2023, she had a good win against Jasmine Jasdavicius. That win aged pretty well. But I mean, again, she just doesn't fight. I mean, I don't know why. She comes from a really good camp, Fight Ready in Arizona. That's the split off from the MMA Lab with Santo Ariemo and Eddie Cha. Santo DeFranco and Eddie Cha. Good camp. They always have her ready. She's a great wrestler. If Arujo was a little closer in age, I might pick her to win. I'm going to pick Cortez to win, but I don't think it's a great fight for DFS. For Chris's point, Cortez has just not scored a lot. Arujo can be taken down. I don't know. Maybe she gets some takedowns in control time. I don't know. I just don't like fighters that are that inactive. When you fight once a year, I don't understand what you're trying to do. She's got a good record, 11-2. But like fighting once a year, like what is your ultimate goal? What are you trying to do? I mean, I don't understand. Like, yeah, your looks are only going to take you so far. She was going out with Brian Ortega for a while. I'm not sure what happened there, but okay. Like I'll pick Tracy Cortez, but I don't see it as a great fight for DFS.
Yeah, I think we're agreed there. Definitely some more fights on the card that promise a bit more action than this one. And we're about to talk about one right now. It is Jose Delgado at 8,500, taking on Hyder Emil at 7,700. Line on this fight is Delgado minus 145, Emil plus 125. And if Andreas Gustafsson's fight against Chaos Williams taught me anything, it's that counteracting a guy who just wants to clinch up with you and rough you up is a lot more difficult than you think, especially if you're not used to that. For that reason, I do think Hyder Emil is going to be a pretty popular dog on this slate, just because we were talking about action and how the last fight didn't have any. That's what Hyder Emil does. He's just going to have everything is going to be a point scoring opportunity, from clinch control time to regular strikes in the clinch to significant strikes to takedowns. He's really going to, on a per minute basis, he's really a great fighter to watch. And, these guys, it's always a little scary because the strategy is always, okay, I'm going to take your shots, and I think that I can weather that storm and then come back. So it's always scary in that point. But a guy like Delgado, he's very slick. He's very fast. I think he needs space to get his game working, and Emil is certainly not going to give him that. And as a relatively young fighter, I just think Delgado is not going to be ready for the kind of oppressive style that Emil is going to bring here. So I got to pick Emil here. Obviously, he can run onto something again. Always the concern with a guy who fights like this, but I think Emil at a dog play against an unproven fighter who is, flashy, explosive, but definitely a guy we need to see more from. I think Emil is in a really good spot here. But we will see what the boys think, and we'll start with Joe this time. Joe, how do you see this fight?
Yeah, so you have two fighters, combined record 20-1, 11-0 for the Hurricane Hyder Emil. Delgado is 9-1. Delgado does come from a good camp, MMA Lab in Arizona. They have good 135ers. This is interesting to me because, I love the Hurricane in this fight. I really do. Look, Delgado's a good fighter, but I think he's got the experience edge. He's got the aggression edge. I think, honestly, he's even fought better fighters too. The Hurricane, he's gonna pressure. He's gonna go out there. He's gonna fight for your money. Look, I see this fight as pick'em. Delgado is a slight favorite here. I think there's great line value on Emil. I think he's going to be very popular. And what's his salary again, Chris? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
For who, Emil?
Emil, yeah.
7,700.
Yeah, 7,700. I think he's going to be really popular at plus 120. And this line could even tighten up as we get closer. So I'm going to take the Hurricane here as my first dog pick. Actually, no, it's not. It's my second dog pick. I picked Slava Claus as well.
You went Slava, yeah.
Second dog.
I appreciate what I believe was a genuine salary ask and not just the troll.
No, it was. It was a genuine salary ask.
Okay, absolutely. Okay, Drake, how about you? How do you see this fight?
Well, I mean, I've been on Emil for all three of his UFC fights. The funny thing is we've seen him fight, and I think a lot of people continue to place him as a dog because he's 35 and he came into the UFC late, which is really unfortunate because I think he could have had a really nice UFC career. That said, he has fought 3 other times in the UFC. He's been a dog all 3 times in those fights. Keep making him a dog and keep proving him wrong. Emil should be the more active fighter, like you already alluded to. I think he gets another knockout.
Yeah, I mean, he's always live for it, and he's always going to force the action. Which is why you should probably have a little bit of both. But I agree. I think Emil is just kind of going to just sort of overwhelm the younger fighter here. And I really like him at that dog salary. But
by the way, look at his DK points, Chris. Against Garcia, he put up 131.8. Against Lee, he put up 106.8. And against Gomez, he put up 95.7. So at 7.7K, if he gets to win, he's going to 12, 13, 14x you on DraftKings. So I unfortunately, I think he's going to be very popular. Yeah, and you might want to play Delgado as somewhat of a contrarian play because I think Emil is actually going to be higher owned. And Delgado is a good fighter and does come from a good camp. But I like, again, I'm going to stick with Hurricane.
Yeah, and, that could light a lot of lineups on fire. So for that reason, you should have Delgado. But I agree. I think Emil is the pick here. But now we'll go to another fight, which is Gregory Rodriguez, 8,800, taking on Jack the Joker Hermanson, 7,400. Line on this fight is minus 220 Gregory Rodriguez, plus 185 Jack Hermanson. Hermanson, with some time away from the cage after that win over Joe Fire, hasn't fought since February of 24, but I got to say, I kind of like Hermanson here just because of what we've seen from Rodriguez to come out hot and then fade down the stretch. And I think Hermanson, that's pretty much his job at this point. That's what he did in the firefight. Of course, that was 5 rounds. This is not, but I do like him to just sort of weather a storm, pressure, find his strikes, be selective. He's a very physically strong grappler himself, which means that Rodriguez probably won't be able to take him down, probably won't be able to get much going on the ground. And even if it did, I would actually be sort of interested to see that because Hermanson is sort of a tricky grappler in his own right. But I just can't trust Rodriguez. He's going to come out like a ball of fire. But Hermanson has got that sort of veteran stick-to-itiveness, and I really like him. Again, I'm saying it a lot. I do notice, but I do like him to weather a storm and sort of come back and. A very tricky striker, very good with the elbows, good at finding his shots, and I like Hermanson to get this done. I mean, he has been knocked out. Thiago Santos did it. It's not an easy thing to do. He's a tough fighter, so I'm going to have to take Hermanson as another dog play here at a significant discount. But we will see if Drake feels the same way. Drake hates his fight.
I was on Hermanson going into writing my article, and I let certain Joey talk me into Rodriguez. My biggest concern with Rodriguez is actually how easy he opens up. And I mean, it's like every fight he gets hit in the same spot, he opens back up, and then he bleeds everywhere. Yeah, it creates so much problems for him in the ring, and it's not like Hermanson's some bum off the street. The big issue I have with Hermanson is he's now 37. He's fought one time in almost 3.5 years now. It's tough. Hermanson used to be one of the best in the division. I just think his time might be a little past it. Yeah, that one right there, that guy. I like I said, I was on Hermanson. I do still think that he's a really great pick for this, and this fight could go either way. But I am on RoboCop.
Yeah, agreed. And the inactivity is always a question, and RoboCop could spark him out. But I think if that doesn't happen, it's going to be an interesting fight. But we will see how another Joe thinks about this fight. Joe, how you see it?
Yeah, so I'm going to put it out there. I have got a lot of bias on this pick. One, I was on the Cannon when he beat RoboCop as a dog in a main event fight. I actually ended up finishing him. That was one of the worst gas jobs you're ever going to see. And the Cannon just took advantage of it. I should also state that Rodriguez always has a hellacious weight cut. Like how this guy makes 185, his weight cuts are hellacious, which is probably why, I don't know why he wouldn't move up to 205. It's not such a great division that he couldn't be successful there. So he's got a hellacious weight cut. And secondarily, I was on Hermanson as a 7.2K dog to Joe Pfeiffer, which has aged pretty well. All of Drake's points are good ones. The guy's fought once in 3 years, right? I mean, he's a wily veteran. There's a lot of parallels to this fight to McKinney Slavaclaus. I could see Rodriguez going out there and finishing him. And I could see Hermanson surviving the first round and winning rounds 2 and 3 and just grinding out a decision. So I'm going to, again, this is my third dog pick. I'm going to take Hermanson. Again, you should play both sides of this fight just because, Rodriguez does have that finish equity. RoboCop does, but I think Hermanson's got, if he could get through round 1, I could certainly see him grinding out rounds 2 and 3 and making a decision. And maybe a way to play this too is, wow, I don't even know if I'd want to do that. I mean, Hermanson plus 3.5, meaning he's got to win one round on all the judges' scorecards. He's plus 100. Maybe that's not a bad way to play it, in case there's something wacky with the decisions. But like, yeah, I'm going to take Hermanson here.
Yeah, no, again, that's I do find those interesting. Those bets where you're going, plus or minus scorecards. But I do think it's going to be Hermanson's fight if it gets later. So that could definitely be one to watch for. But we will see how it goes. How if the storm is indeed one that can be weathered. But right now we are going to move to the main card, and before we do that, we're going to take a quick break for our audio-only podcast listeners, and we will be right back. And we're back. Thank you all so much for hanging out, and we will move right to the main card now, the pay-per-view card, as it were. And the first fight is Felipe Lima at 8,700, taking on Peyton Talbot at 7,500. Line on this fight is Lima minus 170, Peyton Talbot plus 145. And you got to be a little careful of the recency bias, of course. Joe mentioned it. Hani Barcelos gave Talbot a veteran lesson in his last fight, really worked the wrestling, and in the moments where he had to stand, did enough with his boxing to get the job done. Look, Felipe Lima can be his own worst enemy with the spinning stuff and the low priority attacks. And he's muscled up and he can get tired. But I just think he has every advantage against Peyton Talbot as far as skill goes. I think he's going to be stronger. I think he's going to hit harder. He's going to be a better wrestler. He might not be a better pure boxer. I'll say that much. But as far as like power again, Peyton Talbot is always just, standing straight up, really wanting to suffocate you with pressure. We've seen Lima hit reactive takedowns before. Again, I think the power is really going to play. Talbot really needs to wilt opponents, and I don't think he's going to get a chance to do that against Lima. He could do it if the fight progresses, but this is one where I don't think the storm will be weathered. We'll bring that up again. I just think Lima has just too many advantages here. I could really see a finish or a dominant win here by Felipe Lima. I'm not discarding Peyton Talbot. I still think he's a good prospect. I just think Lima's a better one. So my pick is Lima here. Again, both sides apply. This is a very good fight. Should be a very interesting fight. It's going to tell us a lot about these two fighters going forward. But my pick has to be Lima. And but we will see what the boys think. Joe, how you see this fight?
Yeah. Oh, man. So what if Talbot even won a basic decision against Barcelos? What would the line be in this fight here? Is this an overcorrection? I mean, look, this was one of their
too much of what I'm going to say. Come on now.
Yeah, okay. This was I'm sorry. This was their guy after Bo Nickel, the UFC's guy after Bo Nickel. I mean, he's 26 years old. Now one thing to consider is this is essentially a home fight for Talbot. I mean, he lives in Las Vegas. He's from Reno. He's going to have people there. This is a winnable fight for him. Lima's good. I mean, you got two fighters that have one loss. Lima's definitely got more experience. He's 14-1 Brazilian. I don't know his camp. I don't know who he trains with. Man, this is going to be my fourth dog here. I mean, I'm going to take Peyton Talbot here, as part of a redemption arc. Would I be surprised if I don't understand what the UFC is thinking. I would think that they want to give him a winnable fight to get his confidence back. So, buying into the narrative, Lima's a good fighter. The guy hasn't lost since 2015. But the fact that he's actually been fighting since back then, believe it or not, he's only 27 years old, right? So this guy has been fighting for a long time for a 27-year-old. And I think his loss was his first fight in 2015. That was the only time he lost. And he's won that many straight fights. So yeah, this is going to be really interesting. I'll play both sides of this, but wow, I just have this feeling that this is going to be a redemption arc fight for Peyton Talbot. So I'll take Talbot here. I'll have some shares of Lima. I don't like him as much as Emil on the dog side, even though he's a few $100s cheaper. I still like Emil more. I mean, Emil is a few $100s more expensive. But definitely another dog that you could place in your lineups. That's number 4 underdogs that I picked. So I'm going to stick with Talbot here. Would I be surprised if he lost? Absolutely not.
Yeah, no, I do think. Look, it's a fair question to ask if there's an overcorrection happening here, and I get the impulse to just go with all the plus of money on Talbot just because he is a good prospect and it is a big line, but I think it's a trap personally. I think Lima's too good, and I think that's going to show out here. But we will see what Drake thinks about the matter. Drake Hayes, what?
I am completely opposite of you. I do not think Lima is as good as people think he is. I think he is way too wild, and the
wildness, yes. The wildness,
Lima is not mature enough to be a top fighter in this division right
now. Is Peyton Talbot?
The overcorrection is absolutely real. So Talbot, we all saw. I mean, I was on Talbot in that fight. Barcelos is a UFC veteran. He's been around forever. And he handled him. You don't write a guy off for losing to a UFC vet that's got that much going for him. At least that's what I've learned over the last 15 years of watching this stuff. Talbot is an exceptional fighter. He's got both of these guys have a ton of skill. There's no doubt about that. There's no denying it. But as far as technicality goes, Talbot is just way too crisp. I think he gets right back onto it. I would not be surprised to watch him light Lima up and knock him out early.
Talbot by far the more technical fighter. And to be clear, although I'm not sure you were talking to me specifically, but I don't know. I'm not writing Talbot off. I'm just saying I think Lima's a little too explosive. But the wildness is a point taken. That's something that can't be denied. And it might be the case that Talbot has just more of a better game plan. And this might be the case where Lima, where it's like, you hit all the buttons and eventually, and it works, but eventually it doesn't. This could be that for Lima, but I don't know. I don't really see it, but we will see how it goes.
Who he reminds me of? He reminds me, and this is you might smack me for this. He reminds me of a slightly more responsible Uros Medic.
Oh my God! Yeah, no, I don't know about that one, man.
He fights. I mean, Medic fights the same way. He just likes to go in, guns blazing, and do whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah, to that extent, yeah. But I think Lima has more tools than Uros Medic has. I think. I also think. Well, I was going to say a little bit more defensively responsible, but I mean, he did kind of get tagged by Miles Jones, so maybe not. But look, the point's taken. I do think it's going to be an exciting fight, and I definitely understand the Talbot love. But to that extent, I do think if we're talking DFS now, that Lima could be sort of a contrarian pay up if all the eyes are going to be on Talbot.
So, Chris, me and Drake are on Talbot, and you're on Lima.
I am on Lima, yes, sir.
Okay. So Drake and I are both buying into the redemption arc here, and that the UFC actually does know what they're doing, giving him Lima to fight, and have not totally given up on him.
Well, the one thing, if we're going by narrative, if the UFC's on a guy, I would almost go in the other direction instinctively at this point. But just how they develop prospects and what have you. But I do think it's interesting. I want to hedge as much as I can, just so I'm not killed entirely in the chat if Talbot does go out and get this done. But no, I do think it's going to be a good fight, and I do think that either guy has a chance. But I do like the favorite in this one for sure. And I'm going to like the favorite in this one too, but I have a feeling I'm not going to be alone. It is Renato Moicano at 8,400. Couldn't remember his first name for some reason. Taking on Beneil Dariush at 7,800. Line on this fight. This is peculiar to me. I'm seeing Pick'em, and I'm also seeing minus 120, plus 100. And maybe this is a trap too. I just don't get it. Dariush has been knocked out badly in each of his last two fights in the first round The last one was even worse than the Charles Oliveira one, and always been sort of slow-footed in the octagon. That's how he got surprised by Alexander Hernandez. And now that's not getting any better with age, of course. Not that these guys, I believe they are actually the same age. Moicano was like joking, saying, I'm 4 weeks younger than you, or whatever it was that he said. But there's no doubt that Moicano, regardless of age, is going to be the more agile fighter. He's going to have the better weapons on the feet. And we know how good Beneil Dariush's jiu-jitsu is. But I think at least Moicano will be able to compete there. And if he can, I just don't see Dariush competing on the feet in the same way. And I don't expect him to be an active wrestler. We've seen him slug it out if he needs to. The Jakar close fight, many other fights in his career. So again, this could be a big trap for me, but I just don't see sort of a slow and a much older looking Dariush, despite the same age, beating Renato Moicano here. I think Moicano is going to get this done in pretty impressive style, but we will see what the boys think. Joe, how do you see this fight?
Yeah, I think this might be a little closer than you think. I mean, Dariush, Benny has, fought like pretty much, top of the line fighters. I'm going to, look, Moicano, that was a short notice replacement fight against Makhachev. Everyone knew how that was going to end. I mean, you got to kind of throw that one out, right? I agree. But I think that, he's been fighting the better competition for sure. Benny has, if you look at his last 2 losses, yes, they did not end well for him. I get it. One of the things that concerns me a little bit about Moicano is his fight IQ. I'll never forget me screaming out the TV that all he had to do was keep the fight standing and he would have beat T-City because he had 2 rounds in the bank. And what does he do? He follows him to the ground and gets caught in a choke. So Moicano's IQ is a little suspect, and he just loves his time on the mic. Look, I've been a big Benny fan, and I've gotten most of his fights right, going back to when he beat the Texecutioner James Vick, years and years ago, when everybody was saying, oh, Vick is going to beat Benny. Even though Benny was a slight favorite in that fight. So I've gotten Benny fights right most of the time. With that said, I am going to pick Moicano here, but I do think it's a close fight, and I do think it could be very interesting if the fight gets on the ground, because both guys are good in jiu-jitsu, but I think that Benny is a bit better. Now, Benny has got other things going on. I believe he's got a UFC gym in Orange County, or at least maybe he's a partner in one. Comes from a good camp. Master Rafael Cordero. Moicano's got an advantage standing. Does Benny retire after this fight if he loses? I don't know. Maybe he does. Moicano's not going anywhere. I'm going to pick Moicano here, but I think it's a really close fight, and I'm not sure how well it's going to score in DraftKings unless there's a finish. And look, both of these guys can be finished, so I can certainly see this fight, finishing. And that would result in a decent score. I don't think you're going to get a great score if this goes to decision, but I'm going to take Moicano here.
I think it's a close fight if Dariush can get top position. Dariush is kind of legendary for being a really good pure jiu-jitsu fighter. He has always had that reputation, but he needs top position, and it's a long way for him to go to get it, I think, especially. Again, as I said, the slow-footedness, which has only increased with age and wear and tear. So I think this is pretty soundly a Moicano fight, but I have had egg on my face before in close lines like this, and we will see if Drake is joining me with those eggs. Drake, how do you see this fight?
If eggs are being thrown, I'm going to be joining you, because so I'm going to start off by saying that Joey was all over Dariush, and that's his pick. And I told him, Dariush, if he comes out looking the way he did in his last 2 fights, he's done. He won't fight again.
Yeah.
I don't like Dariush in this fight. I haven't liked him in the last few fights. It sucks to watch a guy that's been great for so long just hit that back 9 and kind of just fall apart. It really sucks watching it. Moicano, I've got him locked into this. I think he just beats the shit out of him.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, for a while it was like, hey, Makhachev Dariush was intriguing because of how good Dariush is on the ground, and maybe that could be. But I mean, now, I don't see it. I think that window is passed. I think the luster is off, and I think the pick has to be Moicano. But we'll see. Maybe the line is close for a reason, as Joe says. We will see how it goes. And this next fight, which is definitely interesting. You know, I have to say, this is a pretty good main card for as much crap as we are giving the UFC. It is Brandon Royval at 8,200 taking on Joshua Van at 8,000. Line on this fight is minus 120 Josh Van, plus 100 Brandon Royval. As you might remember, this is a somewhat short notice fight for Josh Van. Obviously got the call, took the opportunity on a couple weeks notice here. And I kind of see this one a little bit like I see the Peyton Talbot fight, where people are seeing the name Josh Van and they know how much offense he can produce and they know how skillful he is, and so they're just gravitating towards him. Personally, I think it's too soon for him. I think Royval, his length, his jiu-jitsu, his the height advantage, the 4-inch height advantage here, it's going to make it harder for Van to get on the inside, which is what he needs to do. By the way, last fighter, and I think the only fighter to have a 4-inch height advantage on Joshua Van, Charles Johnson, a fight that ended in a knockout. So we will see how this goes. It's impossible not to like watching Joshua Van fight. He's all action. He's got beautiful boxing. He's a finisher. And, of course, for DFS, he will always bring you the points, even if he does not finish, because he is that active. But I think Royval is just a unique challenge. Not just with straight takedowns here. I think he could even be diving for legs. I think he could be making Joshua Van have to think about things that he doesn't normally think about and things he doesn't normally have to deal with. I like Brandon Royval. I think he's got too many tools here. I think he's got too many tricks, and I think it's just a little too soon for Joshua Van, but another one that I'm going to be very interested in. And you know what? These lines are so close that you definitely need to have both. This could be a slate breaker with how close the salaries are. Exciting fight in a number of different ways. Watching DFS related, but I am going Brandon Royval. We will see how the boys see it, and we're going to start with Drake. Drake, how you see it?
You know, I wish the UFC would have made an exception and made this a 5-round fight, because we are going to get fireworks. We're going to get excitement. This is the type of fight that brings people into the UFC. This fight should be absolutely phenomenal. Royval, he's already proven against, the top of the division. He's beaten everybody but Pantoja. He's a phenomenal fighter. He does get a little wild at times, and that might be his downfall in this fight. Van does not get wild. He is probably one of the most technical fighters in the UFC. His boxing is crisp. It's beautiful. His movement is amazing. And he's got phenomenal elite takedown defense. People might knock him for being short notice, but Van has fought 5. This will be his 5th fight in the span of a year, I think, or something very close to that. And with that, I mean, it just means he's always in camp, so he's always ready to go. So there's no worry there from me. To me, it's just another fight for Van. As long as he keeps his standing upright, I think he outboxes him.
Yeah, and if he does keep it, he does have a chance. The height advantage to me is a little bit concerning, just because his game it's so necessary for him to get on the inside, and if that's going to be an issue, I think that Royval could maybe roast him if he's 6-minute range. But like you said, Royval is very aggressive and wild. It's not like, he's sort of a master at keeping range or anything, but I do think that his tools are going to be enough and those attributes are going to be enough. But we'll see what I was going to say Drake again. Joe thinks. Joe, how do you see this fight?
So you already mentioned the height and reach advantage. Also competition advantage. His only losses are to Pantoja and Moreno. We're talking about Royval here. But the biggest advantage above height, above reach, above competition is grappling. There's a clear path to victory here, quite binary. Take him down. I already made a bet on this fight. Royval by sub plus 700. I'm surprised it's so rich. That line is so rich. I bet enough money to win 1,000 on Royval by sub at plus 700. I could also see myself betting Royval straight up, especially if this Leiden winds out. Look, I think Van could be a good fighter. He's only 5'5". He does have some solid boxing, but again, I think there is such a clear path to victory here for Royval, and I hope he's not stupid and tries to box with him. He's so much better than Charles Johnson as a fighter. But again, his win equity is to take him down. And I can definitely see him locking in a sub, which is why I thought I was misreading the line when I saw Royval by sub plus 700. I didn't think it was possible. In DFS, yeah, look, both of these guys are going to score if they win. So I am certainly going to have shares of Van. I mean, and this is really closely lined salary wise as well. So I think this is going to get a lot of dual-sided action in DFS because the salaries are so close. And honestly, again, this is dog number 5 for me. And with all the underdogs, it's so easy to get either one of these guys into multiple lineups. So if you want to take a stand, take a stand. But I definitely think this is a fight where you should have pieces of both sides because I think it's going to score really well. I could see Van, look, if he wins, he's probably going to knock him out. I don't see him winning by decision. I could see Royval winning by decision if he kind of just takes him down and grinds him out. But again, I'm also expecting Royval to win by finish to lock in the sub and get the finish. So I'm going to go with Royval and call this my fifth underdog pick.
It's interesting because he is a betting underdog, but he is not a DFS underdog. Royval 82, Van 8,000. So that's interesting from that perspective. I mean, it's not much, but it is something you do have to pay up a little bit, which is what I was referring to when I said this reminded me of the Talbot fight. Not as stark, but I do think you might be underselling Van a little bit. I think he's maybe a better fighter.
I got a question to go with this fight for both of you.
Yeah.
Who would you say is the better grappler, Royval or Saruya?
I would say Royval is the slicker grappler, if that makes sense. I think he's more likely to
the way I think that Royval is better. He's a great grappler, don't get me wrong, but I think he's more of a submission grappler than anything else.
Yeah, no, sure, that's what I meant.
Saruya was able to take Van down 4 times out of 20 attempts or whatever it was. I don't think that Royval's takedowns are as good as Saruya. So this could be a really fun thing to watch.
Yeah, I don't think Royval is going to have success straight wrestling. Like I said, I think maybe he'll go for some legs or he'll try to force a scramble. And a lot of those Saruya takedowns, he had to get so creative to get him to the ground. And he was able to do it, credit to him, but I don't think Royval is that kind of wrestler. So I don't really see wrestling per se, but I do think grappling is going to come into play. And I like Royval as the slicker, as I said, submission grappler, but it's definitely going to be a fun one to watch. But we're going to move on to the co-main event now, and it is Alexandre Pantoja at 9,000, taking on Kai Kara France at 7,200. Line on this fight is Pantoja minus 220, Kai Kara France plus 185. And not to downgrade Kai Kara France, but I think most of his attribute and his climb up the division is just based on his speed. I think his speed plays really well in a division of fast guys. I think he is maybe the quickest in the division and powerful. It's how he gets to surprise fighters. It's how he surprised Urseg with sort of the Poirier step through left hand for the knockout. And look, Pantoja is stationary and hittable. We should note Pantoja never been finished, knocked out, or anything in the UFC. 34 fights, career, not just UFC. And for all his speed, he does like to explode into his offense. So I think Kai Kara France is going to be on the back foot more often than not. And I think that that's going to leave Pantoja enough space to sort of pressure and work his game. Kai Kara France, of course, a really good takedown defense rate. I believe it's 80%. But I don't think he needs straight takedowns to make this work. I think he's going to rough Kai Kara France up in the clinch. I think he's going to dirty box from in close, and he's going to get his takedowns where available. So I don't, unless he can surprise Pantoja with a big shot, which I don't think is out of the question, but I do think it's his only path to victory. And if it's that narrow, then I have to go Alexandre Pantoja to retain the flyweight title here. We will see what the boys think, and I believe we're starting with Joe. Joe, how you see this fight?
Yeah, so this is going to sound very counterintuitive, okay? But give me a moment to explain.
Go ahead.
I like Pantoja to win this fight, and I like him to win potentially by sub. However, if I was in a position where I was looking to hedge on this fight, like let's say I had an open-ended parlay and maybe I had Pantoja and Topuria left and I wanted to do somewhat of a hedge, I don't hate the play Kai Kara France plus 5.5 at plus 100. Now, what that means for those of you guys that are not like used to betting the pluses minuses, it means that Kai Kara France has to win one of the 5 rounds on all the judges' scorecards, which I think he can do. I think he can win. If this goes to decision, I can see him winning 1 round. Now, again, I could also see Pantoja winning by sub, but if it does go to decision, and the way it sits right now is the under 4.5 is minus 120. Over 4.5 is minus 110. So it's pretty close, right? So again, there's slight equity on doesn't go to decision. And if it doesn't go to decision, I see Pantoja winning by sub. But if it does go to decision, I can certainly see Kai Kara France winning 1 out of the 5 rounds. I see that as a distinct possibility. And you're getting plus money. You're getting plus 100 on that. So I like Pantoja to win. I like him to win potentially by a submission. However, I don't hate KKF plus 5.5 at plus 100.
Okay, I'm glad you explained that for everybody because I was about to ask. Drake, how do you see the co-main event here?
I don't think that Kai Kara France should be in this fight, but that's just how bad this division is now.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to say. Like if you look up and down the division, who can beat Pantoja? If you were to line up any of these guys in 50 fights, I think Pantoja wins 49 of them.
Well, Kopp has been kind of like holding the division.
But now Kopp is freaking trash, and I'm so
being hurt so much, not fighting.
He is the worst fighter ever.
See, Pantoja's 35. That's the issue. 35 is pretty old for 125. That's why people are giving other fighters shots. But I agree with you.
I know, but I mean, we were held up in hell for 3 years between Moreno and Figueiredo, and then Pantoja comes back and gets it. And now he's had 3 title defenses. And, if Pantoja retires in 3 years, we have nobody left in the division that, because they're all about the same age, really. They're all within this, just a few years of each other. So we don't have anybody that's climbing, at least fast enough for it to really matter. So here we are with Kai Kara France, who doesn't deserve it, and he's probably going to get whooped. Now, Chris brought up the speed of Kai Kara France. Could he crack him? Absolutely. You could see, an Edwards-Usman type of, finish in this one. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I think that Pantoja just grinds us out on the ground for the entirety of the fight and potentially ends it early. But this is where we're at, and it should be another title defense for Pantoja.
Yeah, and it's funny, and for that reason, I could see Joe's bet, but I'm not the biggest fan of it because I think the way this fight breaks down is if Kai Kara France wins, he's gonna win moments. He's not gonna win rounds, and so I think this could easily be a Pantoja shutout if Kai Kara France doesn't land that big shot. But definitely we will see how that plays. But for right now, we are going to go to the main event, and it is, of course, Ilia Topuria looking to extend his dominance to the lightweight division at 9,300, taking on Chucky Olive's Charles Oliveira at 6,900. Line on this fight, I was looking at props, so I got to go up. It is minus 450 Ilia Topuria, plus 350 Charles Oliveira. And I love having to keep reference my end of year champions article that I wrote in December. It keeps coming up, which means it must have been a pretty decent article. Charles Oliveira was plus 600 at the time. Now, I will admit that my pick of him was not based on skill so much as lightweight is just a division where there's like 3 or 4 guys who are one fight away from a title shot at any given time, and Oliveira is one of them. He got it by a win over a win over Michael Chandler, which just shows you, I mean, how not deep this division is. I mean, a guy he already beaten, a guy everybody expected him to beat. Nevertheless, I do think there's going to be an interesting fight. Always like watching Oliveira fight. Ilia Topuria is, of course, very interesting. The dynamic of this fight is one that you don't have to watch a lot of tape to see. It is Ilia Topuria hits very hard, and Charles Oliveira gets hurt in most of his fights. Having said that, I'm still picking Oliveira here. Whoa. And the reason is because, one, I think the line is too wide. Two, we only saw Ilia Topuria at lightweight once, and he almost got head kicked into oblivion by a very middling fighter in Jai Herbert. Now, of course, Jai Herbert has the frame that Charles Oliveira does not, but Charles Oliveira is very strong for this division. We've seen pictures of Ilia Topuria, and I mean he looks slightly bigger than some flyweights. He's not a very big featherweight. In any case, he's not going to be a very big lightweight at all. I don't think you need to be Jai Herbert to exploit that. And look, it's going to be dangerous when Charles Oliveira is in space, but if he can get a hold of Ilia Topuria, I really think that strength advantage is going to be pretty massive. I think that I don't think this is Ilia Topuria's division. I'll be straight up with that. He's a very exciting fighter. I mean, this kind of goes into another soapbox thing of mine, which is I really wish fighters would stay in their divisions and just become dominant champions and stop with this moving up. I mean, the Conor McGregor era led to a bunch of exciting things for the sport, but I think we're suffering the wages of that now, which is just every 2 defenses somebody wants to move up and do this. And I don't think Ilia Topuria is the guy for it. I mean, like I'm much more partial to Makhachev going up and doing it. I think he fares a lot better at welterweight than Topuria does here at lightweight. So, of course, a knockout is doable, and I think that Topuria is the favorite for a reason. I think there's a lot of danger for Charles Oliveira here, but I think Oliveira might have to eat a punch or two, but I do think the weight difference is going to be noticeable. I think the strength difference is going to be noticeable, and I think Oliveira is going to get this done. But we will see what the boys think. And you know what? Jake actually told me what your pick was, Drake, because I was expecting to eat a lot of crap from you on this, but I do want to hear why you have agreed with me here. So go ahead.
Oh man, everything that you said is almost spot on. I don't want to see. Well, I don't want to say that. That's not very nice. Like you said, Topuria moving up. I don't think that it is his division either. I think this is Charles Oliveira's division, and I want him to get that belt back. I think he deserves the belt. Makhachev kind of just destroyed everybody, and it makes it really kind of boring. Topuria moving up is really interesting because while he was super dominant at 145, he didn't really stick around long enough as the champion for us to say, "Oh, you're amazing at 145." Yep. I mean, was he already beating everybody? Yeah, sure. But there's still guys coming up. It's a popular division. And, there are guys that could have challenged him. I just think that Oliveira's skill set is going to be way too much for Topuria to handle. And if that's not the case, I'll gladly eat those words. I think Oliveira has a very high chance of submitting him in this fight. And, assuming that he avoids the knockout, he's had a lot of, very close calls with all the top fighters in this division. I don't think it's going to be much different here. I like Oliveira. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a fair take. Like there are 2 ways you can go. I think one is that Topuria is a bruiser and Oliveira gets hurt too much. And the other one is our side, I think, where, it's just not his division. There's too much of a gap here. And I think that is going to play itself out as well. And, when this happens, or if it happens, and I hope it does, then I hope that Ilia Topuria goes back down to his division and really stays there and tries to plant his flag. I think that's where he belongs. But we shall see how it goes, and we shall talk to Joe to see how he thinks it goes. Joe, how you see this fight?
Okay, so I guess I'm the lone party here on Topuria, but I'll tell you the way I'm looking at this fight from a betting perspective. There's actually a way to get equity on both sides. Now, if you think the fight's going to end in a knockout, you could bet method of victory knockout minus 250. Okay. Now, what I was actually looking at was actually getting even more equity. And if you give me a chance to explain here, Charles Oliveira has been submitted. He's been submitted 4 times in his career. Fight
Long
ends.
time ago.
I know, I get it. Fight ends by submission plus 275. So if you play, if you play fight ends by submission, you obviously get some equity on Oliveira to win by submission. You get plus 275, which is actually not that bad considering his win equity is what, plus 330, something like that. If you think the fight's going to end by knockout, yes, you're laying juice minus 250. But again, if Oliveira knocks him out, or if Topuria knocks him out, you get paid better than you would if you bet Topuria straight. So my point being here is, yes, I'm picking Topuria. I don't see myself betting him at minus 425. I'd like to try to predict how this fight is going to end. I'll probably have some parlays with both wins by submission and wins by knockout. That way I get either fighter. I don't see this going to a decision over 5 rounds. I mean, there are other ways you can play this. You could play like fight doesn't start round 5, fight doesn't start round 3. Like there's a whole bunch of other ways you could play this, which I would look at rather than just try to I can't lay minus 425 on a guy's first foray into lightweight. Again, everything you guys said, height advantage, strength advantage, everything except I think heart. I think Topuria's got a pretty big heart. Yes, Oliveira gets hurt in every fight. Now, recently, he's come back. He's gotten hurt and he's come back. Earlier on in his career, if things started to not go his way, he would just fold up. That was always the big knock on Oliveira. And he went on quite a little run and he got hurt in a lot of those fights. I think Topuria is going to hurt him potentially. Now, whether he wins by knockout or sub, my gut tells me he probably wins by knockout. However, I could get a little. I don't think that he will get knocked out by Charles Oliveira. So maybe a way to get some equity there is to play the finishes by sub bet. But I'm going to take Topuria here. I mean, he's my pick. I picked him on Wednesday when I submitted our RotoWire picks. I'm going to pick Topuria here. But again, this is the last fight of the night. So if you're picking Topuria, there is plenty of opportunity to hedge back on Charles Oliveira. I mean, I believe I hedged on Charles Oliveira when I had lots of open-end parlays tied to Makhachev. I actually took some money and put it on Charles Oliveira because he was such a decent-sized dog in that fight. And I think the late money is going to come in on Topuria too. I think there's a couple of big bettors that are going to put money on Topuria as the night goes on. And I could certainly see this going up to maybe even 5-1. And at that price, there's plenty of hedging opportunities on Charles Oliveira.
Yeah, no, that's a good shout to bet the fight as it goes. And look, it's certainly not out of their own possibility that, in fact, it's probably the majority view, at least as far as Vegas is concerned, that Topuria just hurts him and gets it done. But if he can't just hurt him right away and get him out of there, and look, in all fairness, I understand what you're saying, Joe, but I think we can retire that narrative of Oliveira quitting now. It's been a long time. I think the last time we saw it was the Paul Felder fight. Yeah, the Paul Felder fight, which is a long time ago now. I mean, Felder's been retired for
5 years.
5 years, yeah. So I think that's over. So, I think the champion has a name, and it's Charles Oliveira, but we will see how it goes. But that is going to wrap up our card detail breakdown for UFC 317. So thank you all for listening. Now we're going to transition over to hot takes. If you do not know how this works, we pick out a couple of lines, couple of props that we feel is giving too much juice. We think that it has a good chance to come in, and we bring it to you for a potential betting opportunity. If you have those in the chat and you want to put them up, I will go ahead and put them on the screen here. We will discuss them. But otherwise, I will throw it over to the boys. Does anybody have a hot take for me?
Yeah, so I'm going to give out two variations of a parlay. And again, this is interesting because this is a cross-sport parlay. I don't do this too often, if ever. However, what we're looking at here is Jake Paul by knockout. Yes, Jake Paul is fighting. He's fighting Chavez. Jake Paul by knockout, plus 165. Ilia Topuria by KO, minus 175. Pantoja to win inside the distance, plus 140. And Jonathan Diniz to win inside the distance, minus 160. Now, that parlay will pay you 15.24 to 1. Now, if you want to drop Diniz out of that parlay and just go with Paul to win by KO, Topuria to win by KO, and Pantoja to win inside the distance, that'll pay approximately 9 to 1 or 8.99 to 1. I'm going with, the longer odds here, Diniz. I may back it up and put a little on just, Paul, Topuria, and Pantoja, but you're getting 15 to 1 there. And I think I already mentioned I placed a pretty large bet on Diniz to win inside the distance, minus 160. So anyway, that's my parlay. You could play it two different ways. You could get it at 15.24 to 1, or you could get it at 8.99 to 1 or 9 to 1. I'll give it to you again real quick. It is Jake Paul to win by KO, Topuria to win by KO, and Pantoja to win inside the distance. You get both KO and submission there, and Diniz to win inside the distance, minus 160. Drop Diniz, it pays 9 to 1.
Yeah, good. We were going over that before the pod, and it does require you to be a dispassionate gambler because it makes you have to root for Jake Paul to win his fight. So it tests your discipline, but otherwise.
By the way, Jake Paul's going to have a massive size advantage over Julio Cesar Chavez. So.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it's the same deal with him handpicking all of his opponents and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
He actually was on Piers Morgan, and Piers Morgan said he lost to the only real boxer he fought, and then Jake ran away from the conversation, which I thought was pretty funny. But we will move on. Drake, you have a hot take here?
It's a pretty little parlay. You can do it in a 3 or a 4 leg. The 3 is Talbot, Emil, and Moicano. It pays out at plus 965. And then if you're feeling frisky, you can add Oliveira to it, and it goes to 43.74.
Yeah, say that again.
Which one?
The whole parlay.
Talbot, Emil, Moicano, Oliveira.
Talbot, Emil, Moicano. Okay.
Yep. I could definitely see it. Again, not the biggest Talbot fan, but feel like a lot of dominoes are going to fall into place if the Talbot one goes off. I am going to keep it straight. I feel like somebody had to do this. So I'm going Nico Price wins by submission plus 3,300. Nico Price is, I believe, I mean, he should be a black belt by now. He was a purple belt, but when he submitted Brandon Thatch, and that was when he first came in the UFC. So I assume he's a black belt by now. I don't know that for sure, but I think if it hits the ground, it's going to be a different world. I think Price would do well to take it there, and plus 3,300. I mean,
and that's 33 to 1 to win by submission.
He's a black belt in BJJ, and he's got a brown belt in Muay Thai.
Yeah, I would think that he would have.
I think Drake has got cocktails on his mind because he said he's a
Muay Thai. Yeah,
Muay Thais, but that's okay. It's okay.
Like
I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you.
Yeah, I'm something of an expert in Muay Thai myself,
as opposed to a Muay Thai.
Yeah.
I got it.
You like that?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I mean, it's funny.
I'm glad you caught it.
I did. There's this podcast that these guys do called like MMA and cocktails. And they feature a different cocktail, for each podcast, which I think is a really good little gimmick. And they literally like mix it and drink it like while they're talking MMA. I think it's like a really cool. It's one of the guys who does the club and sub. He's a New Jersey guy. I've actually had him over to watch fights. He's a really good dude. But like it's a really cool idea. It's where Like you have a different cocktail each each episode. I really like it.
Yeah, nice.
Anything from the crowd?
Nothing. Well, here, look, Joey did this, and I love you, Joey, but this is not a hot take. 175, no hot take here, my friend. So that one needs to go back to the lab. I agree with the Diniz pick in spirit, but
what if we put Joey's picks together? He liked T-Rex by KO too, right?
Yeah, yes, he did.
So if we put T-Rex by KO and Diniz by KO, that's got to be decent, right?
That would probably be pretty decent. Yeah, I don't have the.
So let's make that like unofficially Joey's hot take is Diniz by KO and McKinney by KO. Parlay them together, and you're probably going to get a pretty decent payout there.
Okay, correct. Well, we're getting
T-Rex by sub.
T-Rex sub.
Okay, T-Rex sub is going to even be better. So
yeah.
T-Rex sub and Diniz KO is going to be pretty nice payout there. So there's Joey's hot take.
Yeah.
Nothing from the crowd, huh? Nothing from the audience.
Nothing from the audience that I see, but I did just want to point out that 3,300 is the low end I see. I'm also seeing plus 5,000s for that.
Oh, are you looking on DraftKings Sportsbook?
No, I'm just on Fight Odds. So the books that they have here are, let me see. They have Bet Online, they have Bovada, they have.
Let me see what DraftKings Sportsbook is.
Yeah, go ahead and look at it because they have Bet US. Oh, they have DraftKings here too.
Oh, dude, it's 50 to 1. It's 50 to 1 on DraftKings Sportsbook.
Yeah.
Nico Price to win by submission, 50 to 1.
Yeah.
Just throw $10 on that.
Yeah, really.
Why not?
Why not?
Wow, that's pretty sweet. I mean, 50 to 1. I don't know.
Everybody remember that, and whether or not that does come in, drop us a like because we do need it. But and it does help us out. We would appreciate it very much. Otherwise, though, we are going to wrap it up here. Thank you all so much for watching and contributing and all that stuff. Joey, didn't mean to be too hard on you on the Diniz take. Definitely text us or give us a thing in the DMs if you have something else. But
and I have a quick shout out, Chris, before we sign off. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, please.
I just wanted to tell, I did go to UFC 316. I went with Leo 76. He was kind enough. He was a finalist in the DraftKings DFS contest. And we went. It was a great card. DraftKings always does everything top notch. Sweet at Newark. And I am so happy to shout out that my guy, Leo, finished fourth, took home $40K in that contest. I also got to meet Squirrel Patrol, who was the winner. He won $250K. He's like an across-the-board top DFS player. Unfortunately, the myth, the man, the legend, McLovin was not there, although he had 3 entries in the contest. Did not win all that much. I think he just cashed the minimum on all of those. But anyway, it was really good time, and I'm so happy that Leo won $40K in that contest, taking 4th place. He previously took 9th, and he was just looking to kind of do better than 9th, and he did significantly better, finishing 4th and winning $40K. So shout out to Leo 76. I really appreciate the invite. It was a great time.
I'm going to quickly shout out myself too. If you read my article, Drake's Take on RotoWire, last week I took a massive dog in Co. It started out at like plus 370 or plus 380. That pick was absolutely nailed. And I mean, that's huge returns for just a single dog. So,
and that was a big DraftKings play too.
Yeah, it was massive. I mean, he scored the 3rd highest, which is easily best value on the slate. So,
yeah, and I was just saying, not only did Co win, he absolutely smoked Oban Elliott. So
no, I should know this, Drake. So I apologize for not knowing this, Drake and Chris. Is your article behind the paywall?
No, sir.
Oh, it's not. So
No,
you
no,
could
sir.
read.
Anybody can read it.
You could actually read Jake's article for free. So like,
yep.
Yeah, look, I hate to call people out, but you're literally dumb for not doing that, and I'm dumb because I didn't read it last week, and I actually asked Drake to start putting. We have like a little group chat in a little group DM in Twitter, and I asked him to put it there so I don't forget to read it. So like, I'm the idiot that didn't read it last week. I should have read it. You guys can read it for free. You don't have to pay anything. Read his article, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for the promotion there. And if the free stuff is that good, imagine what the pay stuff is. I mean, come on, forget about it, guys.
Yeah. No,
but,
you guys are both actual employees of you guys actually employees of RotoWire? You are, Chris, right?
I am with a different function that I do.
Okay.
But the writing stuff I believe is just technically I believe is a freelance
Got it.
kind of thing. So
Got it.
yeah.
Yeah, and I am just like a contributor. I don't take any money. If anybody from my office is watching, like I don't get paid it. I get some swag. I really like the RotoWire like mugs that they send me, but I do not take any money at all for doing this. It's purely a labor of love. RotoWire is a great company. I love the swag they send me. Chris, did they do the annual party this year? Usually they do it during fight week.
Maybe they did.
I would think you would get invited. Yeah, they always invite me to that, and I can never go for whatever reason. So maybe one of these days they'll do it in Wisconsin over Christmas, and I'll actually fly out there and see you, Drake, in Wisconsin.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No,
that'll be a blast. I'd love to. Actually, I've never been to Wisconsin, so I'd kind of like to do that. It's one of the few states I've never been to. Anyway, I know we're just rambling here. Look, this should be a really good card. We get a week off, which is kind of cool for 4th of July. Which I kind of like. So great DFS card, bet with your head not over it. I think, great way to get started here is to play the 50-cent contest. You could max it 150 lineups for I'm not making light of it, but like you could max 150 lineups for $75 and you could play around, man. You could play around with lineup optimizers. You could do your own thing. Top prize is usually about $2,000, maybe more because it's pay-per-view. But like that's a great way to get started and to like just try things out in mass entry. And I think this is a great card for mass entry contests.
Yep. No, absolutely. Definitely good shout there, Joe. Appreciate the RotoWire love as well. But we will go ahead and sign off now. This was the UFC 317 Fight IQ preview. Good luck in all your contests. We will be on Twitter talking about the fights and breaking each other's chops in the group chat, I am sure. But for now, we are going to sign off. We will see you on the next review. And as Joe said, enjoy your time off next week and good luck with the fights.
Peace.